What's up, everybody? Welcome to the final chapter of the making of my Christmas cottage card. In this one, we're going to talk about post-processing. We're going to talk about what happened in between chapters, how I ended up, putting it all together, and that kind of stuff. So here you can see this is the final render coming from Arnold. This is the raw render. Open in Photoshop. So this is a live chapter that I'm doing. It's not pre-recorded because I wanted to go through and show you the very simple post-processing that I did to the image. So going back to the previous chapter, this is how the sign end up looking, which is over here and over here. I did a little bit of Easter egg where I painted Santa's house, and then I have it crossed, and then if you zoom in, you can see it says Rudolph. So one of the deers is tampering with the signs, just being a naughty boy. So you can see his hoofs on the house as well as on the snow. You can see how much the snow softened up because of that skin shader, subsurface shader. That I use for the snow. I added a little bit of grass picking here and there, just to make it look, a bit more believable. And then I sculpted this snow, just to make it, a bit more interesting. So I didn't really do too much, render layer, compositing type, because it was a simple image. And Arnold is a great renderer, so it pretty much gives you a lot of the results straight from the box. So I did put some brick texture on the stone texture on the bricks, and then added the Christmas lights. I didn't record it modeling this because how this was done is basically just a curve, and then I modeled one of these guys and then duplicated along the curve. Pretty straightforward, and then manually just rotated them a little bit to get that random feel. Same thing for this side, same thing for the tree, and yeah, that's pretty much it. If I click this the next layer, you see pretty much nothing is happening, except if we zoom in here. You're gonna see I had a little bit of shadow because these two objects were separate and I wanted to blend in. So this is one of the things that you can do in post-production. You don't have to do everything 100% perfect in 3D. You always have the ability to tweak your stuff in post a little bit. So all I did is I painted out the shadows, and I took the clone stamp tool and just kind of blend this in with the bridge. So that's what that layer is doing. And the next one is very subtle. I just add a little fog in the background and a bit of depth of field type of effect. Again, I'm not even using a Z-depth pass for this, which is what I would usually do to add the depth of field effect, because I was in such a rush. This comp was done on Christmas Day, basically. So I was running late and I didn't, have a lot of options. So I basically used what I had and, made it work. And then this is the biggest change. Actually, no. The curves is the biggest change. This is just a slight hue saturation shift for some of the bricks. So if I zoom in, you're gonna see just some of the bricks getting a bit more saturated. I just wanted to add that little breakup, just to make it look a bit nicer. And as you can see, I added some snow on the ladder, on the barrel, and the little bench. Just same over here, because this is partially under this little trim I added the snow like on a slope, basically because it's not snowing all the way in. Same treatment for this kind of stuff for the boxes, and then I just had the lights overlay layer, which basically brightens up a little bit, and then there's the bloom, which is the same layer duplicated and blurred and set to set to add, just to add that little bloom happening on the lights, which illuminates them a little bit more. And then the aurora effect was just an image that I found of aurora online, and I kind of blended in 20% with my background, because if this was a North Pole, I figured it would be nice to add that. Excuse me. And then the biggest color change happened in the curves node. So if I open that up, you can see this is the curve that I went for, and then all of these individual channels are pretty much default. I didn't touch any of them. So just a slight pinch of color, darken the darks, lighten the highlights and midtones a little bit, and just get it a bit more contrasty and interesting looking. And then last but not least, I add the ambient occlusion, which just adds a little bit of detail into these shadows and crevice. But what I did is I added a layer mask and just painted out the ambient occlusion from a lot of the trees, because they were getting a little dark for my taste, and that basically helped me to add details in places where I wanted to be. And for the smoke, I just took stock footage of smoke and I just stock footage of smoke, created a big blanket of clouds, and then I created a layer mask and just started erasing in between, just to create the letters. And then I duplicated that and just continued the process, adding this foggy effect around it. And then when I was done, I just collapsed everything into one layer. And then the very final touch was the vignetting, which will focus the viewer a little bit more towards the house, and that's it. So the only other layer than the ambient occlusion and the beauty that I rendered was the ID mask, which if I disable all of these guys, you will see it looks like this, which is basically allowing me to just take the magic wand tool and just selecting, if I be on that layer, just selecting everything that is in that color. If I wanted to do color correction to just this part, this is how I would do it. I used disk ID mask to generate the mask for the Christmas lights, which I then used in the lights bloom layers, in these two layers. So very, very useful. And the way you do this in Arnold, you just add the ID layer. It figures out all the objects for you and assigns random colors for you to each object, and you're pretty much good to go. There's no actual setup, manual setup needed. So there you go, guys. This is pretty much the final result. I hope you like it, and I hope you learned something and you find this series useful. If you have any questions, any comments on this, please let me know in the comments below, or send me a private message. I will try to answer all of them as fast as I can. And so have a great holidays if you're watching this during the holiday season. If not, well, have a nice working year, and I hope you guys liked it, and see you in the future in my next tutorial. So peace.